Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the show where we talk about everything and nothing and what's going on in the spot market. And we have our morning coffee. We can talk about other things as well. But who knows? Who knows where this morning will bring? We got kind of a light load this morning. I've got 2 trucks that got to deliver and pick up. So we're trying to stay one step ahead. That seems to be how to survive the market right now. And there's still money to be made. You just got to stay in the correct lanes and book ahead. And the railroad strike, that's going to change a few things. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Anytime, that's the thing about this industry is you're thinking you've got it all figured out, and then some external circumstance occurs, and then now all of a sudden your normal trends go out the window, and you get a lot of unnatural, kind of like the EIDL loans. They kind of help keep a lot of businesses afloat that normally would have purged in 2020. So there's that. Yes. So we'll get some more people in here. Looks like notifications went out. Appreciate that. And we'll get the chat up here, and then we'll get to work here. I've had some interesting conversations with a few people here lately, and yeah, things are getting interesting, I guess. A lot of people have look. We're not going to be doom and gloom here, because I know people don't like that. And we try to be positive, but there's a lot of winds of change that I'm seeing that are coming up, both in my personal life and in the industry and in our country. And I'm just trying to be aware of all of it without living in fear, without living in anger. And that's all you can do. That's pretty much what we can do. Sometimes you just got to focus on the hood in front of you and the road in front of you, and just put your nose to the grind. So let's do some shout outs here, and then we'll get to the spot stuff. Max Force, morning from Quartzsite, Arizona. I think you meant Quartzsite. Been a minute since I've been out there. Sage, hey now, what's up? Grafton, good morning. Nothing Winnie is in the house. WT Johnson, morning. CDN, Freight Broker, good to see you. Thank you for the market report you gave me yesterday. Those are very insightful. Cody, what's up? Let's see. Sage says I did an interview on the strike. Yes, he did. So everybody go check out Sage's channel. Morning, exit 196, I-69. Is that in Indiana? I believe, probably. Now I have a strike. Yep. So off for 7 days on YouTube. Yeah. I warned you. 56 degrees and foggy in I-40 North California. Yeah, the fall is starting to knock on the door. Fall is like, hey man, guess what? I'm going to be announcing my arrival soon. So yeah, the mornings have been absolutely perfect here in Springfield. Kind of morning that you should be. I should be doing this video from the porch, right? But I can't do market reports from the porch because I don't have my computer out there. Big Houston, good morning. This Truckin' Life, good morning. Pale Rider TV. I saw your update. Keep on keeping on, my friend. Shannon, what's up? Good morning. Helene Bemis. Hello, everyone trying. There you go. That's a good way to do it. Sam I am, good morning. Shiny side up. Good morning, Snorelord. I like that. Icon there. It is times like this that us consumers listen to you guys. Well, good deal. Jeremy Rice, good morning. Yeah, bitches. Big Rig CEO. Looking to be all loud and proud in the morning, right? East side of Michigan. Okay, Michigan, yep. Well, I-69 is not a very long road, so it's either Indiana or Michigan, right? So Michigan's a good running area right now. Do it now before the winter hits. So I appreciate the new people that are in here. Thank you, Sage and DIY and Cash is King and Sterling that have brought new people to my channel. I appreciate that. Analytics have been, it's funny. I get a lot of negative criticism for doing the low board stuff, but the analytics are showing something different. Now, I encourage you guys to watch the interview I did with Greg on dealing with shippers and receivers, dealing with customers. Please watch that video. I thought I did that well. YouTube's a strange thing. There are videos that I do that I'm like, oh, that's a bunch of crap. I can't believe I just did that. And it gets like 100,000 views. And then there's a video that I'm pretty actually proud of. And it's like, whatever. So the crowd is fickle. Isn't that a line from Gladiator? Either way, I do this for you. I do this for me. I really don't. Excuse me. I really don't. This isn't to feed my ego. It just gives me something to do. It's a hobby. It's something to help. It's like helping people is what I like doing. That's my intention. And if I make a couple of bucks, that's cool. If I get some good analytics out of it, cool. If I get some endorsement deals out of it, cool. But I won't endorse anything I don't use or don't believe in. So, with that being said, I used to be an ambassador for Road Pro, and the gal that kind of hooked us up with that, me and Pale Rider, I guess she was let go. So a lot of the like Bill Weaver and a couple others were now they're anti Road Pro, and I lost contact with Kim after a while. I mean, she would still invite me to the truck show stuff, but she did give me a bunch of free things to kind of test out, and not one of them worked. It's well, I take it back. The phone charger she gave me does work. Albeit it's kind of slow, but the Road Pro stuff I just can't endorse. So I stopped putting that in my description because there's one point where one of the products almost caught my truck on fire. And then the other two products just didn't work. I wasted food because of those two products. So I mean, I only endorse stuff that I believe works well and can be an advantage. So, but that's the game. That's what you do on YouTube, right? You become an ambassador for brands. You do an affiliate link for Amazon, and you endorse the things that you use, and you have to filter from the people that do it just for the money, and they'll endorse just a tub of crap just to make money. And then you got to have the honest people out there too. North Carolina, okay. I was wondering how it was that low of a temperature in California on I-40, because I think that's what, Barstow area. The problem with temp control freight is all the load lock thieves. Dirty Robin. Did you get some load locks stolen from the back of the trailer? Is that what happened? Eugene, I'm seeing a little uptick in rates this morning. Anyone else? Eugene, yes. Volumes have come up a little bit, not enough to really offset the capacity. But there is some volume increases, and we'll go over that here in a second. Steve, if you couldn't do You couldn't couldn't you do your morning report? If I knew how to read, I could probably do it from anywhere. If you had a laptop with StreamYard, plug in mic and camera in the laptop and portability, need Wi-Fi from your house or hotspot with your phone. Yes, I used to do StreamYard from the laptop, and I can do it from anywhere. But if I'm in the truck, I'm just going to do a live feed from the phone. I could do a live feed from StreamYard from the phone on my porch, but you know, um, I don't know. I think the setting works good, and I've got all the audio and all that. Halloween candy is still shipping. Good deal. Hershey, DC, and Edwardsville jacked my load locks. You got to be careful. I've had them take straps. I've had receivers take straps, and then like hey, here's your bills, and they disappear, and now you can't find them, and then you either leave the premises or you go back to close your doors, and you realize that your straps are gone. But then, when you're at Schneider, it's funny. It's funny that Big Rig CEO talks about load locks. Good morning, Pam. I had to try to give away load locks because I would pick up a trailer at Schneider that would have load locks in it. Now, I've got the thing that holds 4 load locks in the back of the cab. So I would try to cart around 2 load locks for a minute, but then at one point I would just get on the CB and like, hey, anybody want any free load locks? Same thing with straps. You'd find free straps all the time at Schneider. And but then eventually you run out and you end up buying them anyways. I believe when I left Landstar, I had about 20 straps because I did a lot of the 4-wheeler loads that needed to strap in, and I remember a buddy of mine that still worked at Landstar. He bought them all off of me. He was going through Springfield, and he's like, "I'll give you $100 for all of them." I'm like, sure. And then I end up having to buy more later. But Schneider gives you 2 free straps from the in orientation. So 46 miles east of Jeff's place. There you go. It's probably pretty country right there right now. I'll take a free load lock. There you go. My diagnosis is counter shift brake, which is inside the DD12 transmission, which is covered under warranty. Well, that's good news. Good news. Downtime sucks, but good news. I never got to take advantage of any warranties. So enjoy those warranties, because that might be the only thing that keeps people in business, if you can survive the downtime. So anyways, let's get some low board stuff going on. Let's show some volumes here, which that's what I like to do. Let's do 1 2 3 first. 48065 if you want a discount, 30 days free. Get the whole shebang for $35 a month. All the tools that we're going to show you. Let's zoom this out a little bit. So let's see. Let's look at load availability. So there are 2 ways to do this on this board. Let me we should stop doing that. Let's see. It keeps expanding the menu, which has all my information. I don't really want that out there. Let's undo that. Smooth trucking, what's up? How would the rail strike affect truckers? Well, let's talk about that for a minute before we get into the low board stuff. Chucky, what's up? I'm down till Friday. They say, well, are you going to go home this time? Are you going to stay in a hotel? All right. So the ATA estimates that the rail strike would require the need for 450,000 trucks to compensate for the rail strike. Now, the short term is that volumes are going to explode and rates should go up. Now, there's that word should. Now, anybody who's been watching me more than a minute knows that I absolutely despise the words should and shouldn't. I don't know why my computer's not working. It should. I've got it plugged in, you know. Or, your dispatcher says, well, they should have unloaded you today. I don't know why they're not, right? So the word should doesn't get along with me. I hate using it. And I hate using it with my drivers. I hate telling them, well, they should unload you when you get there. Because, well, I mean, as Nevada pointed out in his last couple of videos, that's not always the case, right? And Sage brings up a good point here, if you can get them loaded. So there could be positive changes. Let me highlight your question again. And there could be negative implications. So it's definitely going to change the dynamics of things. Now, if rates go through the roof again, the shippers are tapped out and demand is down. So that's going to affect things as well. So it could be a good thing in the short run, but in the short term, but it just depends. It depends on your platform. It depends on, what you primarily run. If you're if you're a dry van guy, it may affect you more than it would a step deck or a Conestoga, right? And so, and then if you work for a company that does dedicated freight from the rails, you're definitely affected. But if you're a company that does specialized product that never hits a train, then it's probably just going to be business as usual. But if you're in the spot market, it's definitely going to change a few dynamics. And so watch your port cities, watch your rail centralization, watch your freight out of California, out of Savannah, out of Kansas City, any place that's got a heavy train hub. So and see what changes, so sometimes you got to ignore the averages and everybody that it's telling you how things should or shouldn't be, and just look at what's in front of you. How is it affecting you in the city that you're in today, and where you're going, and who you work for, and what your platform is. And it could affect things negatively and positively. I know that's kind of a gray answer, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know what I'm talking about, because I don't. But there are a few discussions on Facebook that have made some good points, and it could prolong a lot of these companies that would normally purge, a lot of people that would normally go out of business in this market. It could actually keep them afloat for a minute. So there's that. Does Conestoga Freight make good money? I don't know yet, Jeremy. We're going to find out, because I'll be dispatching one in mid-October. No, staying in truck. Okay. Let's see. Running Aces. Good morning. Randy, what's up? Live from Bridgewater, Massachusetts. All the way up there. And Big Rig CO does make a good point that if things are going to be affected so much, that's when government steps in, like, hey, you guys need to chill. We need to figure this out, because we're not going to have you do this to our country, blah, 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 blah. So it's something to speculate, but not to really count on. If you remember, there was a lot of fear mongering, before the presidential election, where, if so and so won, there would be riots. If so and so wins, there's going to be riots. It's like, and so you live in a constant state of fear. So I made it a point to make sure that I was close to the house during an election, because we didn't know. You got all these media outlets and all these corporations trying to put fear down your throat, trying to they go from what could happen to trying to tell you what to do, Like, in other words, they're trying to create it. They're trying to make it happen, like this Civil War crap. You know, obviously they want to create that because, martial law has to be put in place if civil unrest gets out of control. And guess what? Now you lose all your rights. So, but there are companies and people and websites and countries that are trying to push that because they want to see us divide. So when it comes to making plans, just kind of look at each scenario. Okay, what would the strike mean to me? Does it change my freight? Does it change my dynamics? Will it affect my trucking company that I work for or that I own? And if you work primarily 100% with rail freight, then yeah, you should probably pay attention and have a backup plan just in case things go south. But if nothing happens, then you're fine. But if your freight doesn't have anything to do with the rail, then it's business as usual. And if the rates come up, cool. If the rates go down, then you have to, you should have already been thinking about that. And that's the most logical, even keeled response that a person can have. I was having this discussion with somebody yesterday. Any knee jerk reaction that you have to have, get it out of your system, but don't make any rash decisions, right? But come up with backup plans out of those knee jerk reactions. Use fear, turn it into concern, and come up with a plan for each concern. That's kind of that's what I try to do. Am I successful at that time? At times, no, but sometimes I am. And when you do that, you'll find yourself a little bit more even keeled, and then all the what ifs kind of go out the window, or at least don't keep you up at night. And excuse me, and business as usual. After elections, there was no riots, there was no chaos, even though the person didn't win that they were threatening, you know. Now, it's not saying that there's no changes. I mean, there are some changes going on, but but that's the world we live in. And if you're constantly on the internet and it's talking about how the world's ending every single day, that gets in your head. And next thing you know, you're making decisions, life altering decisions based off of fear or fear of missing out. So these are the things that you have to consider when making adult decisions. Now, rail strike doesn't affect me directly. Now, if rates pop up, yeah, that's good news for me. But if rates go down even worse, then I'm already dealing with that anyways. And I already have plans B and C in place for that. So now I sleep a little bit better at night. I just got to make sure I don't get too cocky about it. Like, oh, I'll be fine. Because that's not the case either. I too will have my struggles if things go certain ways. Who's saying that I'm not struggling now? I just don't yell about it on the internet. Shoulda, woulda, coulda, right? Jesse, what's up, man? Yeah, it's been a while. You're correct. There will be no strike. CDN says flatbed rate somewhat holding. I paid $4,060 from Riverside, California to Linwood, Washington, 1,203 miles, 40,000 pounds. Pick up September 13th. Deliver September 17th. I use 29 plus hour, $140 an hour equals. There you go. If you can find a good broker like CDN that knows what our time value is, um, keep that person in your pocket. Run exclusively for that one broker if you have to. You will make money. Fed will step in and demand another cooling off period. That is absolutely true. I believe that. I worry if when the strike adds to the inflation, truckers will end up getting vilified because the current administration loves to shift blame. Well, I'm surprised we weren't vilified for inflation as much as, you know, more than we have. And I'm going to do a little rant here, okay? This Trucker Appreciation Week is a scam. Here's why. If companies truly appreciated their truck drivers, they wouldn't have the turnover rates that they have. If people truly appreciated truckers, they wouldn't treat us like they do at shippers and receivers. If they truly appreciated truckers, they wouldn't waste our time. They wouldn't lie. They wouldn't flip you off if you're running late for work and you're in the way, right? A lot of this trucker appreciation is just a platform for advertising. Ooh, look how nice we are. Ooh, look, we gave our drivers a hat and a pen that's going to work for 3 months. Maybe a mug that's going to sit in your cabinet doing nothing if you're lucky. And maybe a meal, a crappy meal that's not even good for you. That'll make them feel special. It's like throwing bread in circuses at the arena. Is what it is. It's to make you feel all warm and fuzzy. Because the reality is, companies don't want you to think that you're irreplaceable. Because the minute that you think you're irreplaceable, then you think you run the company, and then you actually don't. So just that's my rant about Trucker Appreciation Week. Is what's the intention? If the company truly appreciates their drivers, they don't have to advertise it. They don't have to tell the whole world about it. And they do more than just a crappy pen and a T-shirt that's 2 sizes small, because they don't realize that truck drivers are more than 1X size, right? So there you go. That's my rant for trucker appreciation. And also, it creates an air of entitlement. Well, I sacrifice everything to do this job, so it's about me, 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 me. No, you chose this lifestyle. Back when everybody's like, "Oh, the truckers are the heroes during COVID." What did they do? They shut down the restaurants. They made it where you couldn't even walk up to a drive-through to eat. They shut down the bathrooms. They told you to stay outside in this porta potty, and check in from your phone. We don't even want you touching the lumper check that we need from you. That's how much they appreciate you. So there's that. Sorry. I'm in a bit of a mood this week, so they do want chaos because they can come in and be saviors, right? Already seeing it affect steel loads in Virginia and North Carolina. That's interesting. And that's what I'm talking about, Jesse, right? Just look to see how it's going to affect you in front of your hood there. We don't have rights. Congress took them in 2001. It's called the Patriot Act. That is absolutely true. When you see the tunk is what the Snyder guys call it, to California strike is happening. They're already making preparations. That's the thing. There won't be a strike if there is volume on the spot. The spot will get better, right? If rails go on strike, wouldn't truck freight change to the good drastically? In theory, yes. But there are many people, James Best, that think that won't happen. Great morning, Snorelord. You comfortable in my thing? Yeah, thank you. I wonder why. Can't predict what the government will do, only what I can do and handle for me and my family. There you go, Randy. That's how you have to look at it. What is the rate to dispatch? For us, it's 5%. So, isn't the rail our competition? To a certain degree. I mean, there are people that do nothing but rail work, to and from. So it just depends. But yeah, a lot of the coast to coast freight that's in no hurry goes on the rail. So that is true. Um, Jeremy Rice saying hey to James. On a lighter note, my LTD H1001 came in this week, a Dramina purple satin. I have no idea what any of that means at all. You got me there. I see the industry as still the nation's heroes, so I'm prepared to step in if the rails fail. There you go. That's how you have to look at it. If the rails fail, we'll take over, right? Pumpkin has catered food. Love us. Now Schneider did treat you well if you can make it to an OC during Trucker Appreciation Week. They do have decent food, and they've got some good goodies. We thought if we thought more about what we make an hour, we would make vastly different decisions. Well, okay, so let's talk about that. We're not even going to get into the spot market today, are we? There are some companies that are starting to pay hourly, and that's the advantage of the e-logs is that if we have to go to an hourly, that's easier to document. Now, think about this. Let's say you're a regular Joe working a 9 to 5 job. Okay, let's say you work at a bank. All right, so you get up to be at work by 9. You get up about 6:30, maybe 7 if you're a late sleeper. And you got to get ready for work. You got to shave and, I don't know what that is, but you got to shave or shower and, clean yourself up and then let's say you got to drive an hour to work. And now you're at work. Boom, you clock in, click, and you do your thing. 5 o'clock rolls around. You don't get paid for lunch. Some places are half an hour, some places are an hour. And then you clock out, and then you don't get home till 7. So from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., you're dedicated to your job. Are you getting paid for all 12 of those hours? No. That's part of the job. You don't get paid. If you want to get paid to sleep, and James Best brought this up, do a load that you know is going to get detention that delivers in the evening, like Target, and get paid to sleep. You wake up, you see the notation on your phone of when they called you to tell you that your trailer was empty. You send that to the broker. Broker pays you $50 an hour to sleep past 4 hours or 2 hours, depending on your rate con. That's the beauty of being an owner operator in control is now you have control over those things. So is it risky what we do? Absolutely. We don't sleep right. We don't eat right. We're dealing with a lot of ignorance. Crime rates are up. Traffic is absolutely atrocious. People are more aggressive now. And there's a lot of risk, but the average truck driver makes more money than a police officer. Did you guys know that? They literally get shot at. Well, sometimes truckers do too, but I mean, so it's part of that, So, and then it's just, if you're dedicated to your craft, there's always unpaid time. Always. Thank you for the $5 there. Thank you, Sterling. The state of Utah Amber Alert signs yesterday says appreciate truckers, give them space. That's what's needed. That's how you show trucker appreciation. Don't flip me off when I have to make that wide turn. You know, Allow me to park my truck at Walmart so I can get some groceries. That's how you appreciate truck drivers. Rail strike will shift volume to spot market short term. Working in rail is cutthroat. Sage's interview yesterday confirmed this. You can't be sick or take days off easily. Frowned upon. ESP Ltd. Oh, okay. Guitar. Okay. See, I'm not a gearhead. If it's outside of the realm of BC Rich, I'm not really schooled on it. FedEx Ground moves a ton of Christmas rush dry mans by rail. Be on the lookout for Power Only soon. Yeah, Power Only might explode. If any platform is going to take advantage of the rail strike, if it happens, it's going to be Power Only. During COVID, I saw those "We Appreciate Our Trucker" signs. I wanted to burn those MF to the ground. Now, Donnie Luke, you bring up a good point in my head. I've made this segue in my head. True trucker appreciation. There was a family out in Mount Vernon, Missouri, exit 40, I think 44 or 48. I can't remember which. I think it's 48. They're at the TA, Mount Vernon, Missouri, I-44. And they actually made food and held signs that "We appreciate truckers" during the COVID. That's how you show trucker appreciation. And so when a driver went into the TA there, they felt welcome. They felt like, hey, you know what? We care that you're bringing us stuff during these shutdowns. That's how you show driver appreciation. 60-foot dry man's around the corner. Maybe out west, but I don't see, pulling a 60-footer in Jersey. Yeah, hope not. Where are we going to park, right? The rail moves 28% of the freight in the United States. If they actually strike, there will be some opportunities to get some real coin. However, it won't last long at all, plus the new rail contract might require an increase in volume on the rail, which will hurt trucking. Yeah, it's a short-term game with a potential long-term damage. That's pretty much what it is, in my opinion. In 2022, with ELD, and many companies are still paying based off of PC mile or practical miles versus actual miles from ELDs. Am I missing something? Why the industry continues to let this happen? Well, because no one fights, right? Um, I had a discussion with the driver. He was griping about, you know, he had booked a load from Salt Lake to Jessup, Maryland, and he called because the broker had negated 200 miles. I'm like, what are you talking about? So I did the Google miles, and it was like literally only 3 miles out from what the rate-con said. And he's like, well, I got to go around the tolls. Well, they don't care about your tolls. Brokers don't care about your costs. They don't care about your tolls. Unless you bring it up and you negotiate, they just don't care. And that's the mileage that they go off of. Now, as a company driver, and I noticed that Schneider did this as well. For example, if you wanted to do a load from, let's say you're in Clarksville, Arkansas at that Walmart DC, and you're looking for freight, you have to put 100-mile radius, and Springfield pops up, right? Freight coming out of Springfield pops up. Well, guess what? It's more than 100 miles to get from Clarksville to Springfield, because you got to go all the way west to 49 and then go up. You ain't cutting through the woods in a truck. And so the mileages were always off, but I did not gripe about it too much because I looked at revenue, overall final revenue, not the rate per mile. Now, as a company driver, that's where you see that discrepancy. And that is an issue in the industry that no one will do anything about. And why people allow that to happen? Well, because trucking can be a poverty level job and they don't have room. You have no leverage to gripe about that. I mean, what are you going to do? Go up to Swift and say, hey, I noticed that this load from Springfield to Clarksville is like 50 miles less than what it actually should pay. What's up with that? You know, they'll be like, so what up? What of it? So the corporations that control that aspect of the trucking, they're not going to do anything about it because it's advantageous to them. So there you go. There's your answer. Big rig. Exit 46. William. Yep, 2 years we were heroes, and then not long we went right back to being zeros again. Insane how that happens, right? Bring up your fuel costs or tolls with the broker and let me know how that goes. Sometimes it works. Look, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Many of the flatbed shippers I know rely heavily on rail for bulk products, so the trickle down effect could be rough for us. Yeah, we'll see if it affects flatbed. Nothing better than the smell of new bag of coffee beans. There you go. Way to change the subject. See, I prefer the sound of the crack of the first beer. LOL. Shannon, if you're in here, did you ever get that Cameron's coffee I told you to get? All right, let's do some load ratios, shall we? William says that's what he saw firsthand. All right, so here's your density list. Let's switch this to van for now. Apply. There's your list. Alabama 140, 174 out, 245 in. So it's a little bit lopsided. Everything's red. Alaska is definitely lopsided. Look, there's no freight in Alaska. California is looking pretty good. So let's. I prefer this map because you can just kind of visually see it. Whoops. Okay. Not let me zoom in. All right. So I'm going to do this here real quick. Let's readjust this. All right. Looks better this way. So sorry about that. Lame, dumb, inexperienced. All right. So there's the density map. That's for all trailers. A lot more orange in this situation. So let's switch it to van. There you go. There's van. Now, don't let the green fool you. They still want to push rates low coming out of Texas. And I call Minnesota a sleeper state, right? You think freight would be good up there, but they pay because they know you have to go south, right? You have to go south. So Wisconsin's a little bit different. A lot better industry there. So, and then West Virginia, always red, every single day, every single platform. Let's do flatbed. There's your flatbed. This area is starting to slow down, and look at Jersey kind of disappear. Jersey was good for flatbed as well at one point. Look at California. So if the rail strike happens, then it'll be interesting to see what states turn green and what turns red. Let's look at power only. Power only types. Look at that. Power only is in the west. Doesn't do well in the east. Nothing does well in the north, it seems like. So the people I know that are succeeding at power only are primarily doing it in these states here. Let's look at step deck since Cascade's in here. Look at that. A lot less green on that, but a lot more orange. Orange is like okay, right? It'll be interesting to see the dynamics of the southeast if the rails do end up striking. But let's look at reefer since Big Rig CO's in here. There's your reefer states. Now, New Mexico. What's coming out of New Mexico that could go on a reefer, people? Anybody know? Anybody have an answer for that? Midwest is green as per normal, right? No. I'm sure they're there, but that's not a commodity. Good morning, James, says Shannon. Pumpkins. There you go, Sean. Pumpkins and onions. Now, yes, they do have a link to produce market rates. I primarily stay on this tool because this seems to be the one that I use the most. And yeah, Jeff kind of schooled me on a couple of things with the 123 low board. Market rates, average rates come out of New Mexico. So you got to be real careful with the pumpkins for several reasons. Okay. This is just experience. Okay. That's okay, DIY. That's fine. No, you know, I hardly know I'm live myself. So that's fine. All right. So let's go to Kaislin's comment here. Pumpkins out of Farmington. So here's the thing with pumpkins. Number one, now the brokers are like, hey, you're going to make your money coming out because the averages go up on the rate coming out. Right. So, I mean, that's exactly what happened in Texas. For a minute, if you want to take a load to Houston or Dallas, you got a good rate going in. And then you took your hit coming out. But then when they saw that Texas rate was paying all of a sudden, now they didn't want to pay to go in. And then there was a transitionary period where they weren't paying to go in or out. So boom, next thing you know, Texas doesn't have as much trucks going in and out, unless out of necessity. Well, New Mexico is going to do the same thing. You see it all the time with seasonal produce, such as squash, onions, pumpkins, flowers. And so you gotta know your rates going in and out, and be prepared for the hit either way. Now, a good negotiator can negotiate a great load going in, and then if you're willing to do the pumpkins, you can come out. Now, the problem with pumpkins, in my opinion, it's just my opinion. I don't run produce. My dad did back in the 80s. I'm sure it's a little bit different now. If it's an ag, guess what? You can't go after the broker on that freight if something goes down because they're exempt. You can't file on their bond. So you're taking a bigger risk. Also, there's the potential for a huge load time because if it's rained at all, they will not load that truck because they don't want mold to get on these pumpkins. Now, let's say Walmart orders, so many truckloads of pumpkins, and then they're full because they're not selling as much. Guess what? Now they're going to look at one pumpkin with one little discoloration and reject the whole load. They're notorious for that. There are some Walmart DCs you go in, there's a sign. There's one outside in New Albany. There's a sign that says, "Hey, was your load rejected? Call us. We'll take it." So these are the things you got to keep in mind. All right, I'm back. So if you're willing to put up with all of that, that's true. So if it rains a little bit, they're going to make you sit in that field for a minute. And so make sure you got your detention laid out. Make sure you got a good rate. Going into New Mexico. And make sure you look at the rates of the stuff that's coming out. Don't assume because pumpkins are shipping that you're going to get a good rate coming out. All this is an indicator of volume. So just keep that in mind. UPS is another strike to keep an eye on. Could affect dry van as well. DIY. Anyone in Wisconsin Monday with the reefer? DIY's got some good freight coming out of Wisconsin. Excuse me. I have food grade dry van, a powerful portable AC unit with that. There you go. The new truck stop market rate inside is providing different rates than the 123 low board for same lane. Truckstop.com is counting weight and date to provide a lane rate. Yeah, I mean, all the low boards, their averages are going to be different. 123 low board is a small board. If you're a broker, use it because it's free to use as a broker to post a load. And yeah, it's going to be different. That's why I believe in having multiple low boards. I'm in Wisconsin in the shop. Which shop in Shannon? Okay, so Shannon and DIY. Oh no, that's not good. Come get me. I'll drive team with you for a week. There you go. You can do some freight for DIY. Jump in one of his trucks. Jump in that hood truck he's got now. So, so I look at volumes. 8 to 10 hours load time for pumpkins. 2 ways they load it: floor load or bins. They feed you 3 times there. Biggest thing with pumpkins: open your doors at night on your 10-hour break. That's for van. So, reefer, I'm pretty sure it's a little bit different. Pigtail, what's up? So let's look at I think we already did van, so let's do auto. Let's do auto without reefer. Interesting. I don't think there's much auto freight on the spot market. I could be wrong. So, but anyways, let's open that up here. Let me unshare the screen for a minute. Don't want you to see my stuff. No, I don't get the 15-day average because I'm a cheapskate when it comes to that. Or the hot market maps. This is your biggest tool plus the lane rate average tool. This is for van. California is lopsided, so be careful going out. California is another one of those states that they weren't paying to go in because they knew you were going to get it out. Now they're trying to get it from both ends. Now it pays a little bit better to go in, but now it's not paying as good to come out. At the end of the day, you got to just look at your daily average, whether you go long or short. I mean, that's pretty much it. So I look at these volumes. Arkansas is good. Georgia is not. Look at Georgia. Almost twice the loads going out or going in than coming out. So rates in Georgia have tanked, even though the volumes are good. I mean, those are good numbers. Look at Illinois, though. Look at that. Illinois is on fire. Same thing with Michigan, Missouri. Look at Missouri. Holy crap. New Jersey is still good for van. New York. Look at New York kind of popping in there. So volumes have already increased. Ohio's on fire. PA's on fire. Texas is not. Look at Texas. 42.28 going in and 36.58 coming out. Now, here's the thing with Texas, though. A lot of that's intrastate, right? A lot of the carriers that live there are handling that. I'll give you a Landstar story. So I once took a load to El Paso, and the low board just looked like crap. And I was like, what gives, right? Because I didn't plan ahead when I worked at Landstar. I didn't look at see what was coming out because I was an idiot. And must not be too much Landstar freight out here. That's just what I assumed. So I decided to go do my break at the Petro there in El Paso, and it looked like a dang Landstar terminal. Every other truck was a Landstar truck just sitting in there. I'm like, holy moly. And I ran into one of the Landstar drivers. We were talking at the counter, and he said, yeah, man, a lot of these guys will run for $1 a mile all day and every day. So the agents don't even post the loads on the board because they got these guys in their back pocket. Oh, I end up having the deadhead to Las Cruces. All right, DIY. I will put the word out. My one reefer is on a dedicated thing now. So just keep that in mind. That's why Texas is the way it is. The volumes are great. I mean, there's a ton of loads. Even that's the highest number on this board of loads coming out of somewhere. But Texas is a big state, so look at Wisconsin, 1479. So when you have use this, okay, so does it really kind of mean you're going to get better rates with better volumes? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But here's what you can do. If you're not desperate to move and you're in a place like Illinois, Ohio, where the volumes are outstanding, use that as leverage. And if the shipper and broker become desperate to move that truck or move that load, then you can usually get your money. I know because I've done it. Putting a reefer in Chicagoland, you've got leverage. Not as much as you did 6 months ago, but you still have leverage. And if your idea is to just keep moving, there are other loads. So you don't have to lose a load over $50. Now, when you're in a tight market, like say North Dakota, 71 in and only 134 coming out, you've got no leverage there. You can either sit or move, and you can either move empty or loaded. And you will lose a load over $50 holding your line. And then you might sit for 2 days, or you might deadhead 600 miles to get out. So it's a take of picking your battles. And that's kind of how you have to look at it. Fistful of dollars, what's up? Reminder to get your 10,000 steps in today. In Canada, they recommend for adults minimum 150 minutes vigorous activity a week over above 10K steps a day. Well, that's great that Canada's telling you um, what you should do, but then they regulate what you eat? You know, there's a lot of food chemicals and stuff like that are allowed in America that aren't allowed in Europe because they're bad for you. Just bought a new radiator for 95 Peterbilt, 4,000. Keep track on maintenance. Wow. Whisper in the mic reminds me of Jim Gaffigan stand-up comic. Subliminal voice. I like having a microphone. Thank you to the person that got this for me. I appreciate it. So, anyways, look, strength for today, hope for tomorrow. That's what I always preach, right? This is the spot market. If you're 100% of your business is relying on the spot market, this is what it is. It's volatile, it's ugly, it could be glorious, and it could be crap. Depending on what your platform is, depending on where you run and what your needs are. If you live in Wyoming, you're going to have a tougher time than, say, someone that lives in Columbus, Ohio. If you came from a great company job, the money is going to be kind of a shock. If so what's your personal goals? Can't talk today. When it comes to owning a truck, is it about money? Is it about freedom? Do you truly have freedom if your truck's costing you $8,000 a month? No. Nor would you have freedom if you're a company guy and had a bill of $8,000 a month and all your toys and home expenses and all that. So if your company does something crappy to you, you have no choice but to either move or take it. And moving can cost you, your livelihood. Moving companies can cost you everything. So you have to use common sense. And as we've been witnessing for the last, 10 years, common sense is slowly, well, I wouldn't say slowly, it's dissipating. And business is no different. A lot of people were propped up with the government money that we're now paying for a couple of years ago. And the people that paid, $200,000, $300,000 for equipment, they're going to struggle. That's how it works. It's a natural purge cycle that this industry does. The only difference is the big carriers can weather that storm a lot better than you. So you have to be the manager. You have to be the business consultant. You have to be everything. I don't want to work at Schneider because they micromanage. Well, if you don't micromanage yourself, you're going to see why Schneider will outlast you. And know your numbers. Don't lie to yourself. I still have people. Oh, my costs are only $1.20 a week or a mile. Like, no, that's a load of crap. That's someone who's not doing the proper math. Because I guarantee that if people actually did the proper math, they wouldn't own a truck. TBT, what's up? Yeah, not so common, right? Transland had a bounce house and a slide for driver appreciation. I wanted to go bounce and slide, but I didn't know it was that. Yeah, I don't think that's for the truckers, Tennessee. Now, Transland's been pretty good about a lot of that. They actually do listen to their drivers. Big Rig C and I were part of a group that kind of started that trend with the new CEO that we got, and apparently they're still doing it. So, but that's funny. James, what's up, man? Hope you're doing well. Your nuggets of information, Steve, helps me to keep thinking even more, even for me as a broker, how to continually improve my business and look at the big. God, I can't talk. Big picture. I appreciate that, CDN. I really value our friendship. And I know that sometimes the things that you tell me look like they're going in one ear and out the other. I'm just kind of saving them back for future reference because, I have a folder in that Gmail account that literally it's listed as things that CDN sends me because you send me a lot of good information. And, and I really, I mean, look, you're only as smart and as good as the people that you network with. If you're the king of idiots, then that's what your life's going to reflect. But if you're with five or six people that are in your corner that will bend over for you and bend over backwards for you and help you out because they want to see you succeed, that's the kind of people that you need to hang out with. And I have that core group of people. Pigtail says spreadsheet warriors. OSHA says the bounce house is fake news. I'm not going to butcher that name. Good morning. CDN is the man. Says, yeah, he's helped James too. What would I choose, DAT or 123? I would do both. Look, DAT's the standard for van and reefer because they're the oldest. I mean, they've been around longer than I've been. I mean, they were the first ones at the truck stops with the TV screens, right? 123 is it's got some great tools for beginner spot market people, and especially and also for new authorities because new authorities are limited to just a certain amount of brokers, and those brokers all post on 123. So I recommend the lower line DAT. I got Trucker's Edge, and then the 123 low board. And yes, I'm an ambassador for 123, but I'm not going to tell you to not use a product simply because it's a competitor, because they're really not competitors. They're just additional tools. I mean, you got Truck Smart, you have you have Doft, DOFT, and you got all the apps from all the different brokerages like Uber, Convoy, JB Hunt, Schneider. So I mean, there's 1,000 tools out there you can use. I endorse 123 because it's a good tool. But yes, you have to use the industry standards. If you're flatbed, you're probably using truck stop. So reefer too, I think. Iron sharpens iron. There you go. Dial a truck. Use rotary phones probably when they started, right? I remember. Look, my dad was an owner operator in the '80s, and I remember um, when his normal brokers didn't have freight, that he'd be with the notebook at the truck stop, looking up at the TV screen, writing numbers down, writing notes, and then he'd have to get in line at the phone or grab one of those tables that had the phone there, and he would call for freight, get the information he needed, book it, and you know, I remember doing that a few times. So I mean that's kind of So yeah, it's an industry standard. Now, what I don't like about that is constantly goes down at the worst times. And it's usually right before they say in the email that your bill's due. So there's that. Um, and most of the guys that endorse DAT won't tell you that part. But I've never once had the 123 low board not work on me. So there's that. But I'm not the kind of guy that's going to trash something just to sell my product. I just want to point you towards the direction of some good tools. So now we watch the TV screen for the next available shower, right? Yeah. Now it's on the app, right? Now it's on the app. So, but anyways, so let's go over some of these tools, right? All right. Got your overall dashboard, inbox messages, bids. You can bid on loads. You've got go over fuel prices. They got links to the EIA. They got tools to get your own authority. We got a profit calculator. Let's do a rate check. Someone give me a lane and platform. We got 50 people in here. That's pretty cool. Thank you. I was told that I can never get 50 people in here. So right now we got Springfield to Carlisle for van. Get rate. It's showing 240 a mile to go to PA. High is 304, low is 192. So this is what you mean by backhaul market. So, well, PA showed great volumes, right? But let's do a switch here. Flipping around. Look at those rates now. $1.67, $1.70, $1.85. Now, here's something that you guys got to realize with any low board. That's not the rate that you set your truck at, okay? That just shows you that they're paying less to come out than to go in. All right? That is why that's there. And brokers will manipulate that number to make you think you're getting a good deal, or that's what they want you to quote at, when the load might actually privately pay a lot better. So knowing your lane averages is important, but it shouldn't be 100% of how you negotiate. And just know that if I take a load to Pennsylvania, hold on a second. All right, I'm back. All right, so Chucky brings up a good point. If you go to PA, do that shore hop to Ohio. Take your hit there. And then from Ohio, as you can see from the volumes on both low boards, that it was great, right? So let's do that. Let's do Carlisle to Columbus. A little bit higher rate, right? 230, 243, 213. You can get that done in a day. So if you go to a backhaul area, okay, if you go to an area that's literally like, some places are half of what you made going in, like New Mexico, for example. Then you take a shore hop to get out. Like if you go deep into Florida, you know, grab something. If you don't deadhead out, grab something that goes to Georgia, Alabama. But then you got to look at the volumes. The volumes out of Georgia are going to be better than out of Alabama. So you got to look ahead. You got to be one or two steps ahead. James Best brought this up in his little Dispatch 101 that was meant for Nevada. He was always really good about looking at like, oh, here's a logo in the Dallas. Well, let's see what I can get out of Dallas before I book that one going to Dallas. He would do that. Now, the problem that I have at times is that sometimes loads are so going so quickly that you don't have time to do that. And with half the brokers not answering their phones or emails, that's become more difficult. So what I find is if I stay in the green states or in the red states on the DAT board, if I stay in those states, then I know I'm going to get something decent coming out. Like, for example, PA. PA's got decent volumes. So I'll just have to fight for a harder. Now, if I see that the rates are down, I'm always going to find something from PA to Ohio. Always. Without fail. And I know that out of Ohio, I'm going to find something for a decent rate to another good state without fail. So these are the strategies that people pay me to do. And for those of you, if you're hold on, let's go to this comment here. James brings up another point. If you're booking same day, yes. If you're booking ahead, it's a lot easier to do that. And so that's where the longer runs, the tween runs, like it gives you the tween runs are the ones that are 800 plus miles, 800 to less than 1,000, 800 to 900 miles, right? Pick up Monday, deliver Wednesday morning, that kind of stuff. It gives you time to prepare. So you can essentially book your whole week out if you know each load, right? You can essentially do that. So if I book a load from, say, Springfield to Columbus, delivers Wednesday, I can book that Columbus to wherever that picks up on Wednesday if I know that the customer is going to, so if I know the customer or whatever. And that's why I tend to stay in the same lanes for myself. And realistically, not every driver I dispatch can do that, right? So I have to learn other areas. And I have. That's this dispatch thing has been really a great learning uh, thing for myself. I know how to dispatch a team because I have one. So team freight can be tricky. So you have to take advantage of the situation. And by constantly staying in the right areas, you don't have to look as far ahead as you normally would. Because think about this. Let's talk to Schneider guys for a minute. If you're at Schneider, you've probably experienced those of you there now and those of you who were in there in the past, you book your whole week out. You book 5 loads, right? And then suddenly one of those 2 loads will cancel, 1 or 2 loads will cancel, and then now you got to rework your whole week. So when you book 5 loads ahead, that's 5 shippers, 5 receivers, and 5 customer reps that all have to have everything to a T for that to be successful. That's 15 people that you're relying on for your business. 15 people have to have good days, not bad days, and 15 different sets of logistics. So I never booked 5 loads ahead because I learned the hard way that just wasn't helpful for me. But I do know that if you take a load for Snyder from, say, I don't know, Missouri to Phoenix, you better book ahead before you book that freight going in. But just know that it might cancel. So what are your options if that load cancels? That's the thing. If you stay in the right lanes, if your load cancels, what are your options coming out of there? Well, if my load out of Columbus cancels, no big deal, because I know I'll find load coming out of Columbus regardless, right? So whereas if I take a load, say Wyoming, and that load cancels, I did my due diligence and I booked that Wyoming coming out of Wyoming load before I booked the load going into Wyoming. I did my due diligence, and then that load cancels for one reason or another. Now you're struggling to get out. And that's where frustration kicks in. That's where days lost kicks in. That's where empty miles kicks in, or days sitting at the truck stop waiting for the next load. Next thing you know, you've lost a couple of days, or you've driven 1,000 miles out of route to pick up something that doesn't pay great anyways. And at the end of the day, your daily rate looks like crap. And you had all that stress for nothing. Whereas if you stay in the right areas that's helpful for your business, then you don't deal with that. It becomes almost like a turnkey operation. Just back and forth, back and forth. My biggest worry about booking ahead is locking in a price that's too low the day I get there. So that's where that fear of missing out kicks in, Sterling, right? And I noticed that Nevada had mentioned in either James's feed or his own that he prefers to book the same day, because you think you can get more money. And the reality is, in this market, it doesn't. You're adding unnecessary stress to yourself when you try booking a dock, and sometimes you can't help it. Look, I've been in situations where I couldn't help it. Your truck breaks down, the load has to be worked in on the delivery. You don't know when they're going to get you unloaded, so you have to just wait. Again, that's where staying in the right areas helps that. And that's what kind of threw me off at Landstar. At Landstar, I was able to book out of the dock every single time until the recession hit. And all of a sudden, I couldn't do that anymore. It would take me a day to book one load, and then it would take me an hour to book the load after that. So that's when I learned, hey, maybe I should book ahead. And that's learning, right? And so booking in the dock is a lot of unnecessary stress. Now, you're thinking, well, I'm going to get that broker that's desperate to move because a truck fell off or something like that. So out of 100 loads, you might have 1 or 2 loads that might be under those conditions. How do you spot that load? How do you know which one that is? Because the rest of the stuff that's left is the stuff that no one else wanted, either because it was a low rate, crappy times, or it's doing something stupid like 18 stops, right? So the odds of that happening are slim to none. You're not going to be Mr. Rescue Truck. Okay? Does that happen? Absolutely it happens. But the odd that's like, can you win on a scratcher lottery ticket? Absolutely. Some people are better at it than others. If you want that last minute, I'm going to be the rescue truck freight, post your truck to whatever low board you're using. That's how you get into that niche. And if no one's calling you, guess what? They ain't desperate for trucks in that area. That's how you gauge whether or not a market is good or not. Because if you're on a Friday, and I'll give you a perfect example. I had an outside carrier calls me up Friday afternoon. Hey, I need you to dispatch this truck. Friday afternoon in Indy. I'm like, that should be no problem. He goes, oh, by the way, it's got to go to Denver. Oh. I had absolutely no leverage with that truck because now it's Friday afternoon at 5 p.m. Eastern. I'm scrambling to call. I would have never put myself or any of my trucks in that situation. It was brought to me that way. Adapt and overcome, right? I finally found a load that was 130-mile deadhead, and it went to Denver. It did everything it needed to do for 270 mile. That was the best I can get. There's no way I would have done that load myself. There's no way I would have booked that load if it wasn't out of necessity. So that broker, now I didn't tell that broker that was the only thing I could do. That was like, I'd like to go to Denver, make some extra cash. Well, this is the best. She originally quoted me $250 a mile. I got her up to 270. But now here's what she did do though. Okay, check this out. So she put her phone down on the desk instead of putting me on hold. And you could hear all the brokers arguing with all the drivers, and they were just hammering the drivers, hammering them. I overheard one conversation while I was on hold that, this guy was literally yelling at the driver, you need to tell me why you're asking for $1,000 over the 30-day average or 15-day average. He was literally yelling at the driver. So that's kind of the, that's something that you have to take into account. If you're going to put up an outrageous rate, you have to justify that rate. You have to sell yourself. And if you're desperate for that particular load because that's your go home load, you don't tell the broker that. You don't sit there like, well, you're the only option I got, so I guess I better take. No. Just, it's like a yard sale. You pick up an item and you go, man, in your head, you're like, oh man, I've been looking forever for one of these. Holy crap. And then you go up to the guy, at the table, with this cup of coffee, trying to get rid of his junk at the house. And you're like, yeah, I'll give you a quarter for this. Act like you're not desperate for that. And you're like, yeah, sure, I'll give it to you for a quarter. And then, boom, now you got this thing for a really good deal. Buying records, something like that. So it's the same concept. You don't sit there and ever tell the broker this is your go home load. You don't ever tell the broker that this is your only option. You don't ever tell the broker that they have leverage over you. Now you can tell them you've got leverage over them. If there's 1,000 loads going to Denver and only 50 trucks in the area, guess what? You've got leverage. So now you can hold out for that extra $1,000. But as long as you can justify it, and I literally have gotten $1,000 over the 30-day going into Denver. I've done that. Again, it was for the same carry. They needed the truck to get there because otherwise I generally don't go to Denver because I know it's tough getting out. But if I do have to go to Denver, I have a plan to get out. I have brokers in my pocket, and I have a method of short hops that gets you out of Denver for a not so horrible rate. I don't cancel loads to make more money, even though the brokers do the opposite, and nor should you. I got a 7,000-pound load going to Ohio from PA for $1,000 or $250, something coming out. Feel great about it. Also sets me up to find my weekend load out of a good market. There you go. Chucky's on it. Yeah, and that's the last thing you want to do is don't quit looking at the market after you book a load, because there's always going to be something better that you could have picked. Texas and Florida always been tough on me for pre-book. California, Central Valley got rough last year for me. Yep. I'm always 2 or 3 loads ahead when booking. It gives you some breathing room. I mean, look, there are times when my trucks have to be booked at the last minute, but then there are times when there was one point where all 5 trucks I had were booked 2 days ahead. It was awesome. I was like, and I found myself getting better rates. I've got, Big Rig CO. He's talked about being literally a week ahead on the loads for him and his driver. Do loads cancel? Absolutely. Brokers understand that. I had to cancel a load. I had almost 2 loads booked after I had a truck ending in Springfield on Saturday. And I took a risk by booking the Saturday pickup load because, we did not I did not confirm that the receiver would take them Saturday. I assumed that they did. I did not double check. The driver did and found out, guess what? We're not emptying out on Saturday. But by then, I had booked one load that picked up Saturday going to Columbus, and I was already. All right, we're back. What a buzzkill. It's a conspiracy. So, anyways, way to kill my momentum there. Sometimes you got to work hard, and sometimes it's easy to book freight. And by the way, subscribe to that Snorelord OG channel if you don't mind, please. I'd like to get that up to 500 so I can start utilizing the community page on that and build that channel. If you could do that, I would be extremely grateful. 47 of you. I know that some of you already are. But look, and if all this is overwhelming, that's where a guy like me can come in handy. I've got um I've got quite a bit of experience. I've learned the hard way on dispatch, self-dispatch. And I know that right now a lot of brokers are requiring email and multiple phone calls. And if you're going into a tough area and you're not booked ahead, then you don't have time to book. So that's where I come in. OG, OG. I might change the name of that channel. I haven't decided yet, but Link, that's a good idea. Let me do that. Man, you're smart, TBT. You smart man. All right. Let's see. That channel is going to be a little bit different because it's not going to be strictly about trucking. I mean, I guess I kind of don't just do trucking on this channel, um, but this is primarily the bread and butter of this channel. Sheffer the Tanker, what's your advice on getting out of Colorado? So, depending on where you live, what your needs are, what platform you have, I'm assuming you might be Tanker. I would look for the shortest hop possible. So, and also look at the rate you got going in. So your closest cities are Albuquerque and uh, Kansas City. So obviously your rates are going to be better out of Kansas City. So if you take a hit out of a dead area and you don't want to go empty, which is understandable, then you find the lightest load possible with the easiest times. You don't want something that's like 46,000 pounds and you know, takes 2 days for 1 day transit kind of crap, or it goes to a CVS or Walgreens or something stupid like that. So you pick an easy load that goes to Kansas City, easy on the truck, easy on the, because you're primarily going downhill, and hopefully a good tailwind depending on what the weather's doing. And what I used to do at Landstar was I would grab, primarily what was coming out of Denver with Landstar was either empty cans going to another dead area that you got a good rate, or beer. Beer loads were generally cheap. Now they're not light, but they were preloaded. So you know that you could get loaded once you're ready to go. And so I would always take beer to Oklahoma because it was basically down 287 all the way down to through Texas and all that. So, and then out of Oklahoma, I had a broker that had freight coming out of there. I had an agent that had freight that came out of Tulsa. So that was my primary weapon, was having that broker in the pocket of the areas that are hard to get out of. So when you negotiate a load going into it, like let's say you go to Denver, if you can find the broker that's got the highest paying freight consistently out of Denver and have them in your pocket, it's easy to get to Denver. So what you would do is, when you call in the first load, like, hey man, I'm looking at your logo in the Denver, rate needs to be higher because of this, this, and this. They don't need to know that you have a secret weapon coming out. They don't need to know that, right? Sometimes a person can talk too much in negotiating, and you want to stay away from, you want to cut it up a little bit, but you want to keep the joking to a minimum. Make fun of yourself. Not, you know, don't bring up political, religious, or sports teams. avoid those topics, right? I believe Nevada, he said, he made a joke about being liberal to the broker. And well, you never know. That broker could be the most diehard left liberal. He'll hang up on you, right? They don't need to know your politics. So that tactic could backfire. Now, if you know this broker really well and you know what side of the fence he's on and you want to cut it up, then yeah, you can do that. But to bring that up to a complete stranger you never talked to before, you wouldn't do that out in the street. So why do it on the phone? So, the cutting up is creating jokes of a situation. And like for example, I would call, I call on a load and it'll have a reference number and I'll go, yeah, I'm looking at your load picking up in so and so going to so and so, picking up, tomorrow. He's like, yeah, let me look for you. I said, I got a reference number if that'll make your life easier. And there was one guy that went, huh, not really, but I appreciate you trying. I said, well, we gotta help each other out, right? It's a rough world out here right now. So if we can help each other, that's great, And I got that load. I got a good rate for that load. That's the kind of cutting up you want to do. Um, if if you got a pleasant voice or you talk without anger, that's generally a good thing as well. I'm pretty good about reading the broker when they answer the phone. And if they answer angrily in short sentences and they don't even say the name of the broker, odds are against me that I'm going to book that load. Because obviously they hate their job, they hate their life, and you're just an annoyance, not an opportunity. So sometimes you don't even do the whole spiel because you know how it's going to end. It's kind of like, knocking on a door to sell vacuums or something like that. And you just tell when the dude opened. There was one time I was selling newspaper. I was a kid selling newspaper subscriptions door to door. And I knocked on the, apartments were gold because you can less walking and more opportunities, right? And I answered this door, or I knocked on this door, and this guy opened the door wearing a cowboy hat, nicely dressed, obviously on the way to somewhere. He had a big white German Shepherd right next to him. And he literally looks at me and goes, no. I'm like, have a nice day, sir. Thank you. And I took off. I mean, sometimes you just got to know how to read a room. And that's one of the most important aspects of being a salesperson is knowing how to read a room. It's the same thing. Well, it's a phone. How are you supposed to read the room in a phone? Listen to their voice. Pick up on stress indicators. Pick up on how they answer the phone. If the guy answers the phone, hey, this is so and so brokerage. Can I help you? I smile because now I'm dealing with a professional like CDN, right? But if they answered, hey, yeah, is this so and so brokerage? Yeah. Okay, I'm looking at load, blah blah blah, and yeah, it's paying 1,400. And that's it. It's like he's so used to drivers just going straight to the money that he thinks he's assuming that that's what I do. So at this point, the conversation's dead. The only way you would dig into this conversation is if you're desperate to move. The higher your cost, the desperate you are to move. The more needs you have, the desperate you become, the more you have to deal with that crap. And if you're making 20 phone calls for every single load and not creating any relationships, that's going to be more stressful than finding the 3 or 4 brokers that will service you because you service them. That's how this game works. And that's another one. If I'm on hold for more than 2 minutes, I'm out. Especially if loads are flying off the shelf. We should be back. So, right, I email him, said I'm calling now one certain TQL agent. There you go. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. I get a lot of people that tell me bad things about one particular broker that I use a lot. They're like, "Oh, I tend to have problems with these guys." I don't have any issues with these guys at all, and I get decent rates. I can't tell you how many times he'll throw a rate at me, and I'll look at the 30-day, and he's a little bit above or right at it. So I mean, these are the strategies that you have. I mean, because look, I own that truck behind me. I got to be a salesperson to make that truck money, right? I got it. That's what you are now. If you're a single truck authority, you're you're the back office guy, you're the factoring guy, you're the invoicer, you're the safety guy, and you are the sales team. And so you have to picture, if I had a sales team that did what I did, would I keep them on my payroll? So sometimes you got to fire yourself. How do you do that? Still waiting on the TQL hold music version. That would be a good idea. Yep, you are sales and marketing, right? Lots of guys paid off their equipment over the last 2 years of great rates, might keep the rates lower longer because they can run for less. It's about profitability, guys and gals. You and the truck next to you at that truck stop can run the same load, same destination, same product, same customer, same broker, same everything. Who's more profitable? I'll give you an example. There was a load, and James Best, this pertains to you. There was a load I saw that was going Joplin Rogers. I remember James talking about doing those loads. So I called him up and say, "Hey, give me the skinny on this." So he did. I said, I'm gonna step in the yard. And he's like, "That's fine." He goes, "Negotiate a higher rate." I don't think my guy negotiated a higher rate. This is the guy that was in the truck before Oser. So I did. So me and another truck, there was like 5 of us. There was a Landstar guy, there was a couple of Dart people, there was me, there was James's driver, and a couple other single truck authorities. We're running these loads. Ran them for a week. Excellent money. $1,100 a day for less than 280 miles, I think, total round trip. And basically, they were paying, some guys were making $550 a load, and you're doing 2 loads a day. Other guys, the Landstar guy was doing it for $325 a day before Landstar's cut. I'm like, why are you even here? It's not worth it for that. Now, one thing that truckers don't know how to do is they don't know how to shut up, because every single driver shared me their rate on what they were making. And the problem with that is now I did not share what I was making to the other drivers because I know how to keep my mouth shut. I know that's hard to believe being on YouTube for the last almost 2 hours, but I know when to speak and when not to speak. So I didn't let anybody know what I got for these loads because I was getting paid the highest out of all of these people. Because what would they do if they found out what I was making? They would call the broker like, "Hey, this dude next to me is making $100 more a load than me. What's up with that?" And then the broker next thing you know, "Hey, that load canceled. Get off my load. Get off my line." Because now the money he was saving with the Landstar guy, with that, and he was able to pay more for me. Now he's having to pay that my rate for everybody. That wouldn't have been good. So you have to be careful of drivers that share their rates of what they're making. They're either exaggerating or they're doing it to put a dig on you, and brokers hate that anyways. Now, let's go back to the different rates that all of us were doing them for. Dart was making a little bit less than me and James's guy, but guess what? They had first dibs. They had a deal. They had first dibs in those docks. They were the first to get loaded, and they were the first to get unloaded. If there were no docks when a Dart truck got in there, a truck had to get out of the dock for them. And because of that, they were able to do 3 a day. So they were going on volume. Now, with that being said, who's to say that the Landstar guy was profiting more or less than what I was making, profiting off that load? What's the difference? Well, the cost, right? My cost might be higher than that Landstar guy, which is why he was able to do them for 3.25, and I had to do them at 550. Who's profiting more? We'll never know, because everybody's quick to share their gross numbers, but no one's sharing their net. Why? Because it's irrelevant. Because if that truck next to you is doing the same exact load for the same exact rate, the same exact broker, same exact everything, well, let's say my truck doesn't get as good fuel mileage as that truck next to me. Maybe my truck's paid off and his isn't, or vice versa. Or maybe they have a $2,000, trailer payment and I have no trailer payment. So who profits more off that same rate, same load, same number? There you go. So that's the level that you have to micromanage yourself. Know when to speak, know when not to speak, and make sure that your profitability is up there. That's how you make money in this industry. That's how you make money in any industry. What's your profitability? If your truck and trailer cost, if your fixed costs are 10 grand a month, and my truck back there can do the same loads you can do, who's going to profit more from the same amount of money? Me. Even if I take it for $200 less than you. And so what's happening is you have desperation. People that have high cost, they're having to move regardless. And I see it. JB Hunt, you're allowed to put in your bid, and you can see other people's bids. And I'm constantly getting underbid, or the bids are starting at a ridiculously low rate. Like, who's even and JB Hunt's not even taking it at that point, because they know that people are desperate. So why would they let it go for 15 when somebody's got it for 12 and it should be at 18? Next thing you know, someone grabbed it for 1,000 because they're desperate to move. Now, whether they're profitable or not, who knows? If they are, then that's what they're leaving money on the table. But if they're not profitable doing that, well, eventually the system purges that. So you got to out survive the ignorance. That's how this business works. It's as simple as that. There's no magic formula. There's no strategy. The minute you figure out a strategy, it changes on you. Your platform changes, or your dedicated freight goes away. Something big happens, like, a pandemic that changes everything. And it takes years of experience to develop those skills, to recognize that, or hang out with someone that has been through that. That's how we survive. That's how we thrive. That's how we profit. It's as simple as that. So all these arguments of all these different strategies and doing this and doing that, at the end of the day, it's as simple as that. Can you profit more than that truck next to you? What advantage do you have over that truck next to you? If you're a team, you have the advantage of an endless clock. And if you can find the open window appointments where you can deliver 1, 2, 3 days early, man, your rate per day goes through the roof. Ask me how I know. That 3-hour pause they gave us on the clock has added a lot of, James predicted that, added a little bit of capacity. So now we can be a little bit more flexible on our running. And the brokers know it and the shippers know it. But there's that load. I guarantee that one of you is going to call on a load that's 720 miles with a 50-mile deadhead that picks up at 8 a.m. on Monday and delivers Tuesday at 6 a.m. with a time change in there. Can that be done? Not without a little bit of fudging, not without the advantage of a second person. Oh, and then it goes to Atlanta and Chattanooga to boot. So, there's that aspect as well. And someone's going to take that load and either fake a breakdown because they can't make that delivery, they're going to unplug their ELD, or they got a teammate with them to make that run works. So the broker's like, holy crap, I just pulled this off. Now you're that broker's best friend. The ELD mandate eliminated a lot of that, but not completely. There you go. And it's exactly true. It's a funny statement, but it's true. Kenny Rogers was on it. No business in other markets share these supplier prices with each other typically. That's considered confidential company info. Watch Shark Tank. How many times have you seen somebody like come up, "Oh, I've got this product here. It cost me literally 8 cents to make." And they're like, "Well, what are you getting for them?" "Oh, $20." You don't see people having an uproar over that. That's the idea. We live by that rule. The brokers live by that rule. What's really hurting is equipment, labor prices, and fuel. Fuel has gone up 69% in the last year, 12-month calendar. 69%. That's like a loaf of bread that was a dollar is now 69% higher. So what's going to happen? Read an article a couple weeks ago that the rates are still like 30 cents higher than pre-pandemic levels. They are. It's just the other stuff's up. Fuel was there were points in 2020 where fuel was less than $2 a gallon, people. I kid you not. Leave it on the dock. The mighty brokers will figure it out. If you've got that, see, the idea is having that leverage to be able to say that. Jamie Hunt has a load from Tifton, Georgia to College Park, Georgia for $25. They are starting low. They're hoping for the person that's just going to look. Any broker expects to move a load for $25 is unrealistic. That's just opposite of I'm going to move this load for $5 a mile across country. It's about the same thing. There's no more middle ground. That's the problem. Everybody's swinging for the fences. No one knows how to give and take. There are times when you got to take a lower rate. There are times when you got to demand your rate. There are times when you just got to move, and there are times when you can afford to sit. There are times when it's beneficial to sit, and there are times when it's beneficial to deadhead. There are times when it's not. Yeah, but for $25, I'd be like, no. You call on look. Something else I learned at Landstar. You know, at Landstar orientation, they'll tell you they would help you go over what your minimum rate per mile should be. And so a lot of guys would like, okay, my minimum rate per mile should be $2.25 a mile. So you put that in the load board. You can set the load board. Don't show me anything below 225 a mile. Then you go to an area and there's like 5 loads within a 150-mile radius. You're like, crap. So I experimented one day. Someone told me, one of the veterans, he goes, man, put your minimum rate at $1, dude. I ain't doing no load for $1 a mile. No, no, no. Trust me on this. So I did. Next thing you know, that 150-mile radius had 150 loads versus the 5 that were on there. And they're all like at $2, $2.20, $2.10. I'm like, damn. And he goes, just because they, and there were some posted for $1. He goes, just because they post it for $1 doesn't mean that's what you take it for. They either don't want the high rollers to call, or they want you to think that you don't have a chance to negotiate that much up. And that's the same thing with the rates on any low board, whether it's 123 DAT, Truck Stop, Doft, Truck Smart. That minimum rate per mile or that set posted rate. I know guys that won't even call. If it's a posted rate, they won't call, because if it's high, that means there's some BS tied to it. If it's low, that means they don't want my service. They're looking for the cheapest truck, the guy who's not going to do the research. And there are companies that will pay DAT to eliminate the 15-day. Like, you can't even see the 15-day average on the loads that they post. So if you're only going by that, you're screwing yourself. Garbage man. I got underbid by $500, Sterling. It's funny. I've been underbid by $40 and lost a load. Morning, Michael Dow. I have a truck going to California from Georgia and back to Florida for 11.5 for the whole turn. These are the normal rates. Unfortunately, people concentrate too much on posted money. You're missing the boat. And that, look, if you see a broker post a rate and it's ridiculously high, that means there's some BS and they want your attention. Now, a lot of brokers will post, we've seen it. Like, I had a driver call me. He goes, hey, man, check the DAT board. There's a load posted by, I think it was Axle Logistics, for over $1 million. So what happens is, if you automatically go to highest posted rate, their load's first. They do that on purpose. Now, the difference is Axle had the book now option. I always thought maybe I should book now. For $1 million, I'll do that load myself and then tell Jeff and the dispatch service and everybody else to screw off because I'm rich now. But ain't nobody paying $1 million for a load. So, you have to know what your needs are. And so the posted money is irrelevant. I tend to ignore it. If it's something ridiculous like that JB Hunt load for $25, or I remember Uber had a load, click now for $1 a mile back in 2020. And you just ignore it, because obviously they're looking for the cheapest truck. That means the product sucks, or they're not invested in it, or it's co-brokered. It's a whole game, guys. It's a whole game. And if you're going to chase the highest number on the low board, you will end up in a dead area where you're going to grab some crap back. So sometimes you have no choice to maximize your profit while you're out. But you got to be able to be profitable at the backhaul rates if you're going to go into an area that has backhaul rates. It's as simple as that. And you can't judge your entire business based off of one load. You might take a hit one load. You might take a hit 2 loads for the week. But if you offset that with the loads that you gain, at the end of the week, what do you get? At the end of the month, what do you get? At the end of the day, what do you get? And it's as simple as that. And I find that the people that chase the highest money on the low boards and go coast to coast chasing the big money is a lot more stressful and will burn you out. There's a lot of drivers selling their business because they're burned out. They simply just don't want to fight anymore. I remember helping a driver a couple of years ago, and he was frustrated in his first week of running the spot market. He said, "Man, I must have made like 50 phone calls," and he showed me his phone log. I said, "Dude, you think you're going to be able to do that for the next 3 years, paying off this truck?" He said, "No." I said, "Okay, let's come up with a strategy then." So I gave him the number of a broker that I used. He essentially used that broker as a dispatcher, and guess what? He was happy again. If you find a good broker with a good relationship, then utilize those tools. Find the person that's got the best paying freight out of bad areas and give them capacity, give them trucks. And that's what I have the ability to do. Good morning. If those choo-choo guys go on strike, rates are going up. That is true. We've already discussed that, Dave. I thought about hitting that book now button as well on that load. It stayed that way for like 3 or 4 days. I know, it's funny, right? Bring them to court. Hey, they said book this load now for $1 million. I cost average loads 2 or 3, etc., and then I get overall RPM that way. Sometimes it helps in the grand scheme of things. You always have to do that. Nice time, too many things to do in Branson. TQL's been bugging me lately for oversized power only office units running Nevada to Texas. I wonder why the customer is desperate to use TQL. Why would they even bother to bid? Well, because from a shipper's point of view, TQL is one of the biggest brokers in the world. So why not use them? They don't know the technicalities and the issues that we deal with. They don't know that stuff. All they know is that TQL is a huge broker that gets stuff moved, and they wouldn't be the biggest brokerage, one of the biggest brokerages in the world, if they didn't move freight. That's why. That's why they get away with what they do. They have leverage versus the small brokerage, the one guy operation. They have leverage. They have leverage and knowledge and experience. And you can argue common sense with them all day long, but they will beat you with experience. I do TQL is a bipolar company for me. Sometimes I do well, and sometimes they're frustrating. So it takes experience to recognize when a broker is telling you a fib. I caught one guy who wasn't very good. He wasn't very smart. Hey, is this load? It was that stupid Colorado load I had to book. He's like, yeah, this picks up tonight or Monday. Yeah, what's the business name? So he actually told me, which is rare for that particular brokerage. I look on Google reviews. Place closes at 5. So what would have happened is I would have booked that load, and then the guy drives 120 miles to their shipper, finds out that they're closed, and they won't load them till Monday. And there's no loads coming out on Saturday. So you got to watch that. A lot of brokers are hey, this actually picks up tomorrow, not today. All right, guys, I got to go. I will talk to you later. Peace. Strength for today, hope for tomorrow. We'll leave you with this.